Have you seen me dice bag? The Grognard Files.
Hello, my name is Dirk the Dice, and this is the Grognard Files podcast, talking bobbins about tabletop RPGs from back in the day and today. I'm coming live from my den under the stairs in Dirk Towers in the very blustery northwest of England. Once again, I'm surrounded by my stuff, including my Grognard Files. On my left is the ridiculous homemade shrine to the actor Caroline Munro. I'll just give it a tap. Ah yes, the Eternal Champion has appeared in her annual appearance as herself in Don't Open Till Christmas. And it's my annual warning to avoid it because it's rubbish. In this episode, I'm joined by our resident rules lawyer, Judge Blythe, and we look over some of our gaming highlights of 2018 and award the 3rd annual GROGGIE Awards. Also featured is a sample of actual play from The Smart Party. Now, I did promise that we'd be doing the first edition of The Enemy Within, but it became a corrupted file. In fact, this is the 3rd attempt at trying to record one of our Warhammer games. Chaos has infected the recordings. Fortunately, this final one has been blessed by Tzynich. I'll be back at the end with some podcast recommendations, but without further ado, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Welcome to the room of role-playing rambling. We've just returned from a winterful lunch, and with Blythe. Hello, Blythe.
Hello, Dirk.
Now, you've had the foresight, Blythe, to wear your elasticated waist and your slacks.
Of course.
Whereas I'm going to have to release the restraining bolts on this girdle.
Yes.
Now,
too many mince pies.
It's customary, isn't it, that we set New Year's resolutions. Now, one of my New Year's resolutions this year is to get rid of this timber that I put on. I'm going to have to go on a Bricks and Riot to get rid of this timber because I have put weight on.
Yeah, well, we set New Year's resolutions and never follow them through, so you'll just be a bit bigger next year.
Yeah, beer and beef flavoured Monster Munch. Give a man shape.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Beef flavour? You surprised me there. I'd have said more pickled onion.
No.
I
find them a bit tart.
Do you?
Yeah.
I prefer the pickled onion.
Well,
it's good to know that our friendship would last through a mixed bag of Monster Munch, because you'd have the beef, I'd have the pickled onion. We know the only dispute would be the chilli ones, the spicy ones. I don't mind them.
I like them. But what do you make of these foot-long, have you seen them? Foot-long pigs in blanket. Have you tried
foot-long pig in a blanket?
Yeah. Have you seen them?
No.
Yeah. But the thing with the pigs in blanket, I quite like a pig in a blanket.
It's a sausage wrapped in bacon. For anyone who doesn't know, people from other countries listen to this. Think, what, these British people are insane. They eat pigs in blankets at Christmas. I mean, if nothing else, the pig's a bit too much, and a blanket be chewy. So,
well, they are a bit like that.
Well, they are a bit like that. But a pig in a blanket is a sausage wrapped in bacon, isn't it?
Yeah. But Aldi started doing these like foot-long ones.
All right. It's good. It's good that you've dropped that in.
Why?
Because generally speaking, people learn nothing about gaming from this podcast, but they will now be able to go to Aldi and buy a foot-long
pig in a blanket.
A foot-long.
Foot-long. You can't have too much of a good thing. That's the theme of this discussion, probably.
Are you sure?
Yeah. That time of year where we do the groggies.
Yes.
So awards for the year. We reflect on what we've done over the year and we reward the GROGGIE Awards.
Yes.
Right, okay. Before that, though, I brought a cracker over.
Okay.
I'll pull a cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
It didn't go bang.
It didn't, yeah. Bit from Aldi as well. What's in it?
It's one of those fish.
Is it?
Those fish put on your palm. Tells you something. I never quite understand them. They tell you about yourself, but don't you know already? You know
They always curl up. I've never met anybody who hasn't put one of those on their hands and it curled. Oh, you know what it means? It means you're big-hearted or something. Or...
You hear that? Say, well, I know. If it's true, I know. If it's true, if the fish reads correctly, I know what I am. So don't need the fish. And if it doesn't read correctly, it's a waste of time, isn't it? What's the point of them? Yeah. You're better off with a plastic moustache.
Well, that hurts, though, doesn't it?
You do, well, at least it's in disguise. I mean, what's the fish? The fish just reaffirms who you already are. The moustache allows you to be someone else.
And I don't think it's admissible in court either, is it? Because it only tell...
What, the moustache or the fish?
Neither.
No, I don't think they use them in court. Here, put this on your hand. Tell you whether you're a liar or not.
Hang on, there's a joke as well. Are you ready for this?
A joke, go on.
Okay. What do you call Legolas from Lord of the Rings? Legolas,
I know where he's from. God,
Yeah.
I'm not that bad. I know I don't like talking. I know who Legolas is. Good God.
What do you call Legolas in a harness running away from a shoggoth? Health and safety gone mad.
Hey!
Hey! You having that one?
Very good. Very good.
Health and safety.
Gone mad.
There you go. Yo, you recently ran a festive adventure, didn't you?
I did for Tunnel and Trolls, yes. Yeah.
We had snowball fights.
At the Krampus, didn't it?
Krampus.
The dark side of Christmas.
We'll come back to TNT because us going back to that old school game reflects some of our thinking and what we've been doing.
It does, this year.
So at this point, I always bring out the statistics. How many hours do you think we've played this year?
I always ask this question because I'm not questioning your ability with statistics, or mathematics, although they are questionable. When you say how many hours, do you mean does 1 hour count as two? As in, we've both played an hour, that counts as 2 hours. Or
right.
have you worked it out?
I've explained this to you before.
I know.
So the rules as written.
I know you've explained it, but I don't think you've explained it adequately. I will allow you. It's becoming an annual tradition where you try and explain how you work it out.
So the way I work it out is, if we're playing together, that counts as 1 hour.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we're playing separately apart.
Yes, that counts as separate hours.
Separate hours, yeah.
Right.
So I amalgamate them together. It was 190 hours last year. And
190.
That was a record breaking.
Okay. I would say this year I will go for 230.
230 is spot on.
Is it?
Yeah, it's spot on, yeah. Well
done. Right. Yeah, very good.
You have to do it. So systems last year we did 20 different systems. How many do you think we did this year?
25.
23
right,
this year. What I found going through and looking at this is that whereas last year we did a lot of one shots, so we'd play a game once and never again. This time we've
stuck with it.
Yeah,
that's true. Actually, thinking back, that's true. We've played a game, not once but 2 or 3 times, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
We probably play a game a week now, don't we?
Yeah.
And we used to. That was one of our objectives when we got back into the hobby. We used to think, imagine if we played a game a week.
Yeah. Sometimes 2 games a week.
Oh yeah, sometimes it's 2. Yeah. We've had weeks. I think we've had weeks where I've had 4, 5 games in a week.
Yeah.
Is that right? I
think so. Yeah.
It's almost like we've got a problem, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I know that. I always promise that this is going to be more spectacular each year. As each year goes by, I've got this idea that one day it'll be on television, and we'll have somebody.
We'll have to have a real golden envelope.
Real golden,
real golden, not radio golden envelope.
We'll get somebody to host it. Like Billy Crystal or something. Billy Crystal. You know, like the we'll get Billy Crystal. Cubic zirconium. Billy
anyway, zirconium.
But it'll be one day. It'll be really lavish. This, but for now
it'll be
just
rubbish.
The usual rubbish.
Okay.
So I've got these spurious envelopes in front of me.
Okay.
And first up on the spurious envelope is the Messianic Megalomaniac Award for Moments in Games Mastery. So that's
named after you.
I think last year you won it. I think you
Did
won
I?
it. Yeah. It's not my perpetual trophy.
The only kind of person who would do that is a messianic megalomaniac.
Yeah.
You would, the only person who would say it's my trophy in perpetuity.
So I set out this year having the pledge, because you remember last year I suffered from a bit of the GMitis.
You did, yeah. You
where
did.
doubts over my own ability
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be a GM. And one of the reasons I accounted for it is that I did a lot of one-shots. And sometimes one-shots can be a bit hit and miss, particularly if you don't know the system.
Yeah.
So when I went into this year, 2018, I went with the express idea that I was going to do longer games and try a campaign start. So I started the Pub Cthulhu campaign, thoroughly enjoying that. That is still a 2-hour session that we need to pack a lot in and keep it regularly going. In conventions, so I went to Convergence and we did a 8-hour session of Golden Heroes.
Yeah.
And that was great because we could create the
that was good.
create the characters at the table.
Yeah, it's one of the highlights really of this year. Yeah, it was good fun. That.
Yeah.
You'd have thought it.
And you never thought you'd enjoy a superhero game, would you?
Well, no, not really. I mean, I don't mind superhero stuff, but it's not something I'm naturally drawn to for a role-playing game. But it was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think partly because I think we discussed this on the podcast. The character creation side of it, that you created your character as part of the game and came up with ideas about your character, and that's always a big part of a superhero, isn't it? With their origins and where they come from and why they are a superhero. And we made, rather than being given pre-gens, we did that as part of the session.
Yeah.
And I think that made a big difference to everyone around the table.
One of the benefits of playing it in a long session was that it was episodic, but it was reaching towards the big boss fight.
Yes.
Which all these superhero things are doing.
Yeah.
So there's that one, and then I also ran 2 back-to-back sessions with the same characters and same players of RuneQuest Glorantha at the Owlbear.
Mm-hmm.
But my highlight of being a GM this year has been playing Blades in the Dark for 12 hours.
Yeah.
And you weren't playing.
I didn't.
And part of the reason I've picked it up for a nomination,
because I wasn't.
You weren't there, and you
I
can't verify whether
I can't verify is it any good or not.
When we did the review last year, we talked about Blades in the Dark. Really, we were talking about it in theory because we'd only played it for about 4 hours, haven't we? Four or 5
Yeah,
hours.
we played a couple of sessions. Yeah.
A couple of sessions. And I don't believe you get a sense of what
No.
it's like.
No.
Because what you can't do, because what Blades depends on is this rhythm of play that you have, your downtime.
It's very campaign orientated, isn't it? The whole gist of it is you play it over a period of time and build up a gang and all that kind of thing. So yeah, you're right. It doesn't really lend itself to a one shot. And I know you did a one shot, but it was a 12-hour one shot, so it had a sense of things developing over time. So yeah,
and it has a soap opera appeal. It's a bit like Zola, that kind of.
Yeah. But it's like developing networks and contacts, NPCs, and those kind of contacts and NPCs work best when they're recurring characters.
Yes.
And, whether they're on your side or not, and it heavily leans to all that kind of thing, doesn't it?
And do you know why I liked it so much? It was because
I wasn't there.
Because you weren't there.
Yeah.
That was one.
Okay.
It has that going for
fair
it.
enough.
And the other thing was that it's probably the first time since coming back into play that I felt that special sensation we used to get about being absorbed into something that was happening, and just pulling stories out of thin air. They're coming out of the fundament. As they were getting into situations, I was having to think on my feet, and together we came up with good reasons, and it was really thrilling. And it was pointed out afterwards we didn't have any fights in it.
Not one fight.
One fight, because they had a team of shadows, so they were more like espionage and spies. So they slipped undercover and did the scores by nobody noticing that they'd done them.
Yeah.
And honestly, at the end of it, I felt I'd had an experience.
Well, I think that's interesting you say that, because when we played back in the day, towards the end of our younger role-playing careers, we got to that situation, didn't we? We played a lot, very, very regularly, for long periods, and didn't roll many dice.
Yeah.
Didn't roll many dice.
No,
it wasn't, I can remember playing RuneQuest and going from session to session to session without actually having a fight with anybody.
Yeah.
Because it was all kind of story-based.
Yeah. And we did roll dice with Blades in the Dark, but it had that, the characters were shaping what was important, what wasn't important.
Yeah.
What we're going to do next.
Yeah.
And it did have we managed to somehow weave a story that I came to a conclusion and all the ends tied up, but it was just through it just came from nowhere, it was just, and there's something very satisfying about doing that. But yeah, that was Blades in the Dark. That's my nomination for my GM experience.
Your GM experience as a GM.
As a GM.
I suppose I got to mention we finished Storm King's Thunder, didn't we, this year?
Yeah, which is a triumph.
Well, that was a good games mastering experience. But I suppose a lot of that experience was actually last year rather than this year, just gone. But that's probably the biggest, longest campaign I've ever run.
Yeah,
in one kind of in a sort of continuous campaign. My highlight, and this might sound a bit strange, was running Tunnels and Trolls for you and Eddie. And it was only the sort of back end of this year, because there was a sort of nice simplicity to it where, I don't know, it just got back to basics a little bit.
Yeah.
Grounded us a bit. It's almost like sometimes everyone's looking for new concepts, new ways of playing, and sometimes going into a dungeon on some crazy mission is okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Kind of strangely liberating, because I feel like I've had a year, and don't get me wrong, I've enjoyed games mastering this year. I've games mastered Numenera, so I've done a lot of that, and I've enjoyed that. That's gone really well. That was good. But Tunnels and Trolls was great, because it felt strangely liberating, because all the other games I'd run had an element of the kind of a challenging. I mean, Numenera, I've realised this year, because I've run a lot more Numenera than in previous years, is hard work sometimes for the games master. It's hard work because you've got to explain everything. Everything's weird, everything's unusual, and by the end of it you feel a bit exhausted. Or I do at times, where you think, oh God, this monster, they never met this monster before, I've got to explain it. This strange building they're in, what's it made of? What does it look like? There's a lot of heavy lifting for a games master. And I hadn't quite been aware of that in previous years. But this year, running a lot more Numenera, because I've run it for our Wednesday night group as well. Yeah. And that's been over a continued period. I've realised it's hard work. So it was good to just, in a dungeon, fighting skeletons and monsters, actually, weirdly felt, this is okay. It's the equivalent to these, like these people who drive vintage cars. And you look at people who drive vintage cars, you think, why are you driving that car? It must be hard work. It must be hard work to maintain it and hard work to drive it. Yeah. But there's a certain joy that they get from driving something that doesn't have power steering, that does have a weird kind of clutch mechanism, and does, there's a certain joy in it where they feel sort of perhaps more in touch with the machine. And Tunnels and Trolls felt like that. It felt like suddenly it's more in touch with, what we got into role-playing for. Yes. Which sometimes is going into a dungeon and fighting stuff and avoiding traps. Yeah.
But I think as well that you feel more comfortable in that setting, and that's where your skills as a games master come to the fore, and you're able to create interesting situations, interesting twists and turns within that context. I think you're right. We've played a lot of Numenera, haven't we? And we have been drawn towards the novelty over the last 18 months.
Yes.
And part of it is trying to look at what we've missed.
Yes.
This fear that somehow, in between 1988 when we finished and 30 years later, that we've missed a whole load of stuff that we really need to catch up on. And maybe, there is some comfort in just going back to the stuff that we used to enjoy.
Yeah, and I think what you realise, there's no necessary connection between an innovative setting and an innovative game. You can actually have quite a boring game in an innovative setting, and you can have a really innovative, imaginative game in a conventional setting.
I mean, I've enjoyed playing Numenera, but trying to describe a monster that's actually flailing vacuum cleaner with razor blades attached to it.
Yeah.
Spurting out vacuum packed geese at the back.
It can be hard work, and it can get in the way of the game a little bit. So it's like to compare it to our games of Star Trek. The games of Star Trek RPG is good, even if you're not into Star Trek, because it's familiar.
Yes.
It's a familiar science fiction setting. So you can sort of dispense to some extent with describing everything in intricate detail.
As a player, playing campaign mode in Numenera, you do get a bit of intrigue fatigue.
Intrigue fatigue, yes. Yeah, everything's a mystery.
Because everything is strange and unusual.
Yeah.
Therefore, you just
get... But what strange and unusual bits are significant?
Yeah.
And when you're running Numenera, that's the problem of running it over a period of time, is pointing people. With a one-shot, it's easier to do, but over a period of time, it's pointing players in the right direction and nudging them in the right way can be quite difficult.
And I think it's revealed itself when we've been playing with the Wednesday night group over a few weeks, hasn't it? Because they're new to Numenera, and they're being attacked by colours and shapes on the wall.
Yeah.
And they're saying, what could it mean? Who could they be working for? And I'm saying, yeah, it's nothing.
They don't worry about that. It's just a good monster. It's just a good monster.
It don't mean
Ignore
anything.
it. Don't worry. But then on the other hand, this does mean something.
Yeah.
So do pay attention to that. And as a games master, that's very difficult to. Whereas, say, in a conventional fantasy setting, you can have goblin bandits and you can have this and that and the other, and everyone just goes, yeah, right, goblin bandits, it's not significant, they're just bandits. And then you can drop in something that does seem odd, and people go, this is odd. Now you've got our attention. Whereas it can be quite difficult in Numenera, I think, to do. And I think that's we singled out Numenera because we've played it, but I think that can be true in a lot of these high concept settings, can't it? That if you set it in a very strange setting, you've got the problem of describing strangeness all the time, and the problem of when is strangeness just run-of-the-mill strangeness, and when is it significant strangeness.
Let me have a look in the Spirit envelope. I'm going to put you out in misery.
Okay.
Because frankly, your nomination was rubbish. You're going to have to up your game in the future.
That I know, yeah.
All right, okay. I fulfilled a New Year's resolution. Therefore, I get the Megalomaniac Award for another year.
This is This is why Billy Crystal won't do it, because of that kind of thing. He knows what's going on. I've warned him. Billy, don't do it. He's a megalomaniac. It's all rigged.
Right, okay, we're going to have a bit of a break, and then we'll come back and continue these Spurious Awards.
Previously, our band of resourceful, discreet souls were sent to Mittelberg to recover the future son-in-law of Baron von Horgen. Frederick Fricken was enjoying 7 days of Volksfest revelry, but we were unable to drag the groom to the wedding due to the intervention of a hideous lobster-handed creature. It's a long story. After the failure of the wedding, von Hagen is desperate to increase his fortunes. Volker von Hagen has made a name for himself in the town of Smutzziger. The errant member of the von Hagen household needs to return to the fold, or at least provide a decent stipend to his family. Blythe plays Magdalena, who is from the House of von Hagen, but so far down the family tree that she's almost underground. She's a duellist and easily distracted by the promise of a good fight. Hans Meger, played by Matt Hart from Steamforged Games, is her portly, past-it guard and man-at-arms. He's frequently perplexed at his mistress's actions. Baz is Barold Loftus, investigator, a cautious bloodhound with a nose for the bad guys. And I play his accomplice, Elspeth Volz, bounty hunter, thief-taker, taciturn, single-minded, with an eye on the prize. So, over to Gaz, our games master.
You've been travelling on the roads for some days, and it's been reasonably easy going. Obviously, there's a cloud of your past failure that's hanging over you. You all had ideas that there was going to be a brighter future, which hasn't quite panned out, but you never know. Pull this one off, and things may yet look rosy for you. The sun's sitting fat and gibbous in the sky. It's late autumn, so it's still warm enough that it's starting to get a bit of a nip in the air as the sun goes down. You approach Schmutzegger, which sits on the Schmutziger Fluss, one of the tributaries of the Reich. You can see it's a well-walled town, although relatively small, and off in the hinterlands a little bit, so not on the main thoroughfare necessarily, but well known for its fish and fisheries and various other related products to fish. Basically, that's its big draw. As you know from the recent adverts you've seen for Von Hogen's fish juice, which is all the rage and excellent when dashed on Liechtenstein sausages. So as you approach the road from the south into Schmutziger itself, you can see that on the outsides of the walled town as well, there's little shanty towns that have kind of slung themselves up against the walls of the town, as it does have decent defences, but that means that the capacity of the town is somewhat limited by the amount of space within. So now you're getting lots of other houses and shacks and stuff that are starting to build themselves against the walls and spread out like a dirty rime around the town itself. And as you're padding your way through there, you see that everybody around seems in pretty bad shape. Lots of coughing, spluttering. You see signs of flux, maybe a bit of rat fever here and there. There are indeed big fat black and brown rats you can see snuffing around the place before a small but vicious dog grabs one by the scruff of the neck and shakes it angrily like a rag doll, sending the rest scurrying away. And several people come out in pretty bad repair, looking like well-worn clothes, off-mended, and they've got either cups or hands out, begging for money, especially to you, Magdalena, saying, hello, miss, spare a few coppers. Fallen hard times I have. Got some coppers. You got a lovely art. Got any coppers? I haven't eaten for 3 days, and now there's my babe.
I'm going to be fending them off with me. Get away. Leave the lady alone.
Well, I'll throw them a few copies. I will. Throw them a few coppers. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You throw a bit of brass into the dirt.
Yeah.
And that immediately clears you a path through to the town as they all scurry after the shiny bits of coin that are now stuck in the mud and gives you easy access. There's a couple of town guards that are waiting, but they don't seem particularly interested in stopping you. They're more interested in keeping the riffraff out of the town. And as you look like you're reasonably well-to-do between you and that you've got enough for an inn and that sort of stuff, they don't seem bothered about frisking you down or barring your entry. So you can just wander straight in.
What information do we have about Faulkner?
Faulkner, he's set himself up as a merchant. In fact, if you make a gossip roll for me, you can see if you found anything else out on the road while you've been asking people on the way.
All right. Oh, a 7 is almost certainly going to be something good. I've got a 42 skill in that, so 4 raises, is it?
Okay, so being the sort of like gregarious type who sits with all the coachmen or other people like that, or men at times hanging about, you've had a few chats and games of dice and stuff along the way, picked up bits of information. And from what you can gather from all the different told stories you've been told, trying to sift out the actual grains of truth in it, apparently this town's been ruled by the guilds for some time, and there's been a lot of strife, and the guilds have been fighting amongst each other, all trying to make themselves top dog. And it turns out, from what people are saying, that Volker von Hogen has now taken over the Merchants Guild. And once he did that, he managed to consolidate his position somehow now. So although there's 5 guilds in the town, they've kind of settled down a little bit, and violence is a bit of at an all-time low, or certainly random reckless violence that you'd normally see in the streets. He seems to have ties as well with the Fisheries Guild, And with them and the Coopers Guild, he's kind of tied up all the transportation out the city as well. So anybody produce anything really needs to go through some of his men to be able to either ship by barge or by road any of their goods.
Yeah, Gaz, did I get the impression from what they were saying that his rise was either was it unusual in any way? Was it particularly speedy or unprecedented? Or
so they got the impression it was really efficient when he first came into the town. The idea of a noble becoming a businessman and being able to run things, everybody thought was hilarious. But you can imagine, like, if Magdalena was going to literally say she was going to set up shop here and she'd be in charge of everything inside of a month, like, they'd just be like tears of laughter rolling down everybody's eyes. It's like stupid noble taking over and not knowing what they were doing. But he seemed to quite quickly and efficiently know the right people to speak to, or it's suggested he probably has allies or friends or knows the right people or something. He's definitely got some other force or something with him, or he knows how to manipulate them.
Would I know him?
Yeah, you'll have met him at some other family get-together or something like that, or maybe several of them, some cousin's birthday or something like that.
Would he seem to be the kind of guy who would make a go of it in this kind of business, or does it seem unlikely?
Curiously for you, from your experience of him, he's always contrary and hence being a black sheep of the family. So whenever he was supposed to be doing something, he'd do the opposite. If it's like, oh, it's somebody's wedding, like whatever you do, don't turn up wearing white or cream because that's not the done thing. The bride and groom were wearing that. He'd turn up with a big white Ushanka hat from the Northlands or something like that, just to kind of like make it really obvious that he was doing the wrong thing.
I really like this guy.
Yeah, until eventually it was like, amongst the family, it was decided what would be good for him is to like broaden his horizons by going to some far off town, far away, where he couldn't cause any trouble or embarrassment.
Harold, it seems simple to me that we find the man and drag him out of the city by his beard.
Yeah, it seems elementary, doesn't it? Nothing to it. Let's say, let's drag him out of his lair. You can give him I'll try talking him round. You give him a couple of slaps. Usual modus operandi for our bounty hunting operation.
Well, not that I want to argue with my betters, obviously, but might I inquire as to how concerned any of us might be about his seeming control of a couple of guilds? I'm pretty sure he's going to have a few tasty lads protecting him. I'm not sure dragging him out by his beard seems like an immediate opportunity. At least until we've had a little look, surely.
Well, it doesn't do any harm to lay the groundwork. You're quite right in that regard. I mean, last time we went rushing into anything, we ended up being attacked by a giant lobster woman with her boobs hanging out. So let's not have that happen again.
Right.
Yes.
That was just a costume. We know that, don't we?
I've been able to wipe the stench off myself ever since.
I've met this guy, and it seems improbable and implausible that he's the kind of, unless he's changed dramatically, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who could run a successful business and get the alliance of two other guilds as well.
Well, he's obviously got some leverage over them.
What we need is leverage over him.
These would be the layers of a Bretonian onion. We'll peel one back only to find more corruption underneath.
Oh, as soon as he mentions Bretonian, I hawk and spit.
Well, shall we get a tavern in the merchant quarter? That might be the best place to get a tavern for the night.
That's not. Yeah. Yes.
That's where we're
good.
Yeah.
Will he know your name, Magdalena? Should we go in under nom du guerre?
Oh,
I think
again.
Bretonian.
I don't know. Will it draw him out if I'm here?
Maybe if you start pushing business cards around and start, joining some gentlefolk clubs around here, maybe that would. We could use you as an in, perhaps.
So, yeah, I don't think he would see me initially as a threat because, as I say, I'm a bit of a black sheep myself, aren't I?
Yeah, all right.
So you've made your way through past sort of fisheries to the west. Obviously, give off a strong smell, and for once, you can't. You managed to get rid of the smell of your own lobster-related activities by the overpowering stench of the barracuda and other stuff that are being processed. The Warrens to the east as well on your way in seem riddled. It's proper like Fire of London territory with these multi-tiered houses that are like virtually touching with the thatches at the top and all that kind of stuff and windy alleyways. So it's a bit of a relief to get to the sort of market square in the middle of the town square where there's the mayoral rat house that stands proud and aloof from the other buildings, and then a big cobbled square which gives you a bit of breathing room and space, and people are bustling about still. There's like a long, thin tavern there which seems suitable for you because it's sort of central, and although it's quite a tight squeeze to get to the back, and it's, not a lot of space, and the bar runs down one side, so you're all kind of like bumping into people. It's several stories high and has plenty of rooms available, so you manage to secure some of them, and you cheek by jowl with a mixture of some off-duty stevedores, some of the probably less wealthy merchants, a couple of the clerks from the rat house, probably some tradesmen and people like that. Probably not the people who gut fish and people of that sort. So it's not the most salubrious, but equally you've not got the underclass with you either. You've got like a mid-level tavern, which is within your means and also reasonable as well at the same time. So a lot of people are chatting around, jostling. You get some foaming beer, plates of lips and schnauz sausages as well with mountains of mash, and a nice bit of von Hogen's fish juice in a jug to splatter around and give it a bit of zing, as they like it up here in the north. And it doesn't take long before one of the rough-handed stevedores has come barreling over, encouraged by his mates. He's got big calloused hands, his fingers not unlike sausages themselves in size and dimension.
Delicious.
Slams down a big meaty hand on Magdalena's slim but muscular shoulder. Says, "Oh, all right there, darling.
Here
Haven't
now.
seen you before."
Watch yourself, laddie.
"That's all right. I'm just speaking to the lady, aren't I? She probably wants a bit of company."
I'm going to stand up and point out that I'm not protecting the lady. I'm protecting you from the lady.
This causes a great uproar of laughter throughout the bar as people start slapping each other on the back and turning around to look with interest.
I introduced myself as Magdalena von Hogen.
You're a von Hogen, that's right, and I'm the Duke of Kislev. A peal of laughter goes around the bar.
I'm going to look at him closely just in case he has any Kislevian features.
He has got a lovely moustache.
Oh.
I tell him to take his hand off my shoulder if he values his hand.
Or his shoulder.
I'm going to hold up 2 fingers now, like just keeping count of the number of chances he's got.
All right. He seems to think he's got 2 left. So it does remove his hand and says, "Well then, my lovely, why don't you come over and have a drink with me and the lads? And you've got plenty of money there, haven't you, if you want the Von Hogens?"
I'll say to him, yeah, why not? I'll go and join him, but I'll look him in the eye and warn him and say, keep your hands, your sausage fingers to yourself.
All right. He gives himself a wry smirk, but you go back and there's 5 of them, quite beefy guys, obviously used to like lifting crates and shifting stuff all day, so they're a bit rough and ready, broken fingernails, and
I'll buy him all a drink.
And there's lots of cheers and all this. Oh, so what are you doing here then, madam? Are you taking over now or something? What's going on?
Let's suppose I was related to Volker van Hogen. What would you tell me about him?
I mean, some people are complaining about all the taxes for his new watch force that he's put together, but since they've been round, our job's been a lot safer. There's been a lot less thievery. I can tell you that for nothing. The Burgermeister, he's happy with how things are going. So he's just, I think he's like one of them people who knows how to talk to people. I don't know, what do you call them? Like a politician or something.
Where does he kind of live and spend most of his time?
Oh, well, he's got the grandest house, right? Just round the back of him. If you go around to the square in the Merchants' Quarter, he's got a lovely townhouse there. He's making money hand over fist, But they just go on a daily basis to the rat house on business, and people come and see him now. In fact, the more I think about it, people go and see him these days. He doesn't really go out about much at all.
So he's not seen out and about?
No, actually, we've not seen him for about a month. Now you mention it. He used to be about quite a lot. We haven't seen him at all recently, actually.
And how long is it since things improved?
Oh, it's been slowly, 3 months ago, it was just murders all over the place and knife fights, and you couldn't do it. You couldn't lift a crate without someone trying to rip it out your hands. And over time, it's got better. And certainly the last 4 or 5 weeks.
The last month?
Yeah, like roughly speaking. Yeah.
It's mixing with the common people, isn't it? No, all right, really.
I'm just going to say to Barrel, we know where he lives. Let's go now and grab him by the beard.
Have you got like an appointment somewhere or something? We keep because you seem to want to get this over and done with really, really quickly. Here comes that man.
Well, I've got a sixth sense.
Yeah, you don't feel like you're in imminent danger, but
all right, okay.
Usually, when people kind of make a lot of money and get into power a lot, they make a lot of enemies. Is there anyone around who's not particularly keen on Mr. Faulkner von Hogen?
I mean, Kruger won't be too happy. He was the guy who used to run the Thieves Guild. That got ended pretty sharpish. So he'll still be about somewhere with some of his cronies, biding his time to try and go back to the old ways.
Yeah.
Or if you want to avoid Kruger, like, stay away from, the rat catcher's place late at night.
Makes
I imagine,
sense.
to be fair, they've all, like, slipped away to the shanty towns on the outside. Did anyone manage to successfully intuit?
I got 48 on 44, so it's a simple test, isn't it? So
Yeah.
failed.
Slight fail for both of you. Well,
yeah, slight fail, yeah.
Yeah, Barrel and Espeth, you've not, like, spotted anything. You clearly Spencer's not clicked over. But nevertheless, you're trained investigators. And you have noticed that as you've been chatting to these stevedores and it seems to be getting settled down for the night and Magdalena's just bought a second round, there's one or two shifty types that have, like, nipped off out the door as if off to maybe tell someone or to do something. But, they've left meals half finished and that sort of thing to go off for a wander. Being who you are and what you're used to, like, that just seems a little bit dodgy.
Right, Elspeth, elbow in the ribs. Give them a quick follow. Send up the signal if you get in any trouble.
Yeah.
Rearrange one.
Just
Scream loudly.
Yeah. I'll lump black my face and go out into the night following them.
Do you want to make an opposed stealth roll for me? You've got, your skill's 13, roll 20, is that right?
Yeah.
So it's one level of success, yeah. Okay, no problem. You slip out the door, and the windows now are those, like, big, thick jam jar bottom kind of, like, 15-centimetre panels in them. They're all starting to, like, condense over, so you're getting that nice feeling of bonhomie inside the pub itself. But outside, there's a cold mist that's rolled in as the sun's gone down and the night's drawn in. And it's clanging around your boots and a little chill to the air, but you can spy these two figures as they're hurrying off the heart of the stevedores area. And once or twice they sort of, like, look back over the shoulder to see if he's following, and you hug the shadows and they don't seem to spot you.
So I'll steal down the street through the stevedores area, and I'll be leaving pebbles and moving drain barrels to leave a trail behind me.
You ultimately find yourself outside a warehouse, of which there are many now, and now you're in the depths of this area. One of the doors, it's got the big double doors that you could get a cart through, sort of thing. And within one of them, there's, like, the mountain-sized door that you can get through. And this pair that you've been following have slipped in there. And as you press your ear to the warped wood, of which there's many gaps in, so it's quite easy to get a bit of a sense of what's going on inside, you can hear muffled voices at first, just like general, what are you two doing here, and all that kind of stuff, and a bit of banter going on between regular folk. One of them sort of says, all right, well, fine, I'll go and get the boss then. And, pressing an eyeball to a knot in the wood, you can see that it's lamp lit beyond, although a little bit dark and gloomy. You see there's a big old sword. He's one of those, it looks probably like an old Turkish wrestler or something, like, has obviously been strong all his life, but now put on quite a bit of whale lard as well. But you can tell he's been used to lifting barrels constantly, so he's probably still a bit fearsome if you got in a wrestle with him, sort of thing. He's got long tashes, greased down with whale oil, a well-worn face. And he comes down to these guys and they're going, no, don't worry, boss, this is a chance. One of Von Horgen's families here. We could get her now. She's only got, like, an old fat guard, and there's there's another woman with her, and who else? There's some old guy as well with a pipe. I mean, they're hardly, like, we've got a couple of lads are keeping them busy now chatting, and I reckon if we get a few of us together, we can get him, and this is our chance to get back at Von Horgen. Right, come on then. And you see there's probably about 10 men now starting to get manacles together, sort of big clubs, blackjacks, other stuff like that, heavy cloaks, a couple of sacks and things, and they look like they're getting ready to sort of, like, get out there and cause some mischief.
Before I make haste to warn my companions, I'm going to try and bar the door to slow them down a little.
Right, that's going to take another stealth roll then to make sure you do it without alerting any attention to yourself.
Ooh, okay, I'll do that.
Good luck.
Oh, 8.
Smashed it.
Yeah.
Have you rolled your other D10 as well?
So 8. I've got 8.
Yeah, you managed to slide one of the rain barrels over quite happily and lodge it in front of the door.
I'm going to sprint back to the bar and warn people.
Okay, so welcome back to the GROGGIE Awards for 2018. You've got your cracker there, haven't you? Are you going to pull that one?
Go on then.
Okay, here we go. There we go.
Didn't bang.
Have you got a joke? What's your joke there?
What do you get if you cast vicious mockery in a tavern?
I don't know. What do you get if you cast vicious mockery in a tavern?
You get barred.
You get bad.
Get bad. A joke for all the 5th edition D&D players.
Yeah.
Who probably don't listen to this podcast because they're too young.
Okay, so the next award category in the Spurious envelope is the Olive Kinsberg Players Playing and Games Played. Right, let me just clarify here because I know what you're going to say now. So all this is
Clarify, please.
highlight from you playing.
Highlight from me playing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Olive Kingsburg, so that's an NPC that died tragically last year.
Yes.
Players playing and games played. So highlights of playing. Go on, you go first.
Well, there's been a lot of playing, hasn't there? Because we went to Expo. And
yeah. Well, you should say before you go on that your New Year's resolution last time to go to Expo.
It was, and so, I achieved it.
And how did it go for you?
It went very well, with one exception. There was one game I played at Expo which certainly would not be winning.
Olive Kingsburg, players playing games played that were played.
No, yeah, I had a game of World of Darkness.
World of Darkness on my recommendation.
On your recommendation. Now I have to be clear. There was nothing wrong with the game, and there was nothing wrong with the games master, and there was nothing wrong with the scenario. The only problem is it's another talk early experience.
Talk early,
yeah. After the game in the bar, I had to uncurl my toes. It took several hours for them to uncurl.
Yeah.
Because what I found myself in a situation where a majority of players around the table lapsed into what, for want of a better term, literally called the Amidrammy school of RPG.
The Amidrammy.
As in, they were being in character for the whole game.
Yeah.
Well, I know.
That was my experience last year playing World of Darkness with younger people. Is that they were in character, but I kind of got carried along with that because it was the setting and the archetypes, and although I didn't participate in the Amidrammy, I have to say, it seemed to go alright for me.
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it?
I didn't like it because I think there is it was quite unusual because there is I think the phrase is a sweet spot, isn't there? With role-playing games, where yes, when you play a role-playing game, you are playing a character. So you're not playing yourself. So you're playing a character, and you should act. Your character should act as the character, not as you.
Yeah,
that goes without saying. But there's also an element of discussion around the table outside of the character, isn't there? Generally, that's the common experience. And also there'll be a bit of dice rolling, a bit of game playing. So it's all those things converging to one point where it works really well. So I'm not disputing the fact that you shouldn't act in character, but I just found it a bit much, you know.
So give us an example. Give us an example.
Well, there were just bits where like there was one guy who was a cameraman, and he got some ghosts on the camera, and one of the other players sort of said to him, "Oh, that's amazing! That must be. How did you fake that?" And he said, "Well, it wasn't fake." And she went, "Oh, well, no, it must be fake." And this went on for some time. And there was a point where I felt like saying, "Right, can we just establish now, for the interest of the game, that this isn't fake footage, right?"
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There was another point where a character was running around going, "Oh my god, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? There's ghosts, and what are we going to do? What are we going to do?" And I felt like saying, "You've got an occult skill there, quite a good occult skill. Why don't you roll that?"
Right. So
it was that kind of thing. It was almost as though what was odd about it was that by playing in character, they actually seemed to forget what was on the character sheet.
Right.
To some extent. So I think it's just a style of play I wasn't particularly comfortable with. If people want to play role-playing games like that, that's fine. But I suppose it was like a clash of styles, which left me feeling a bit discombobulated, really. You know, to the point where I think they asked me at the break, they did say to me, "Are you all right?"
To which she said, "Oh yes, I'm really enjoying it."
I did. I said something. It was a bit of a lesson, actually, in when you find yourself in a situation in a game that you're really not enjoying. Maybe the best thing to do is for me to say, "No offence, but this isn't
for me.
The way I'd play a role-playing game. I'm more, I don't do it. It's turned into amateur theatre." I think that's the way. To me, it descended into amateur. I say descended, and I mean descended into amateur theatre. and I just didn't really enjoy it. But I have to say, it was not a reflection on the Games Master. The Games Master was great, and the scenario was fine. It was just a few players around the table really went full on ammy-drammy, and I just didn't enjoy it. I don't like that. But apart from that, Expo was great.
So what were the other games you played at Expo?
I played 13th Age.
Yeah.
Which was good. That was on Sunday morning. That was a good Sunday morning game because that was like a bit of a dungeon bash, and that was kind of what you need on a Sunday morning, I think, at Expo. And I played Hero Quest with Ian Cooper, and you were in that game.
Yeah.
And I'd probably say my nomination as a player would be the Hero Quest game, which I really, really enjoyed. You know, and that's interesting comparing that to the other game I've been talking about, because in Hero Quest we did act as characters, didn't we? We were playing characters.
So you were a haughty.
I was a haughty sorceress, and you were a slave, weren't you? But it didn't turn into amateur theatre. It was more character, as in storytelling, wasn't it? And I think that's the distinction. It felt in Ian's game that we were being told a story by Ian, and we had characters who were interacting with that story. So there wasn't much dice rolling, there wasn't much gameplay, and it was more about storytelling. But it wasn't amateur theatre.
Yeah. As a player this year, I've had half an eye on being a Games Master and learning from the Games Masters I've played with. Because I've not played a great deal this year. It has been more about Games Mastering. So when we've been to places, because we've been on a kind of world tour of the Midlands, haven't we, this time?
We have, yeah.
We went to Warwick, and we went to Birmingham a couple of times playing. But in those situations, I didn't really play an awful lot. I was Games Mastering.
No, you do a lot of Games Mastering, haven't you?
So when I've been playing, I have been looking at how people do things. Obviously, I learn from you. That goes without saying.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But from other people, so for example, we've been in Asaka So's games. We played a couple of games with, and his style is very. I want to use the phrase laid back.
Yeah, it's very relaxed.
Very relaxed.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas I have a need to kind of accelerate things and keep things punchy and pacey. I enjoyed how I enjoy Asaka So. It gives space, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And he asks questions.
Yeah.
And gives space for the players to answer.
Yes. Yeah, I've enjoyed the Star Trek games because of that. I think they are that relaxed way of doing things is a good way to approach things.
Yeah.
Whereas I know what you mean. Me and you are a bit more.
Come on, get on. Go
on with it.
Go on.
But I think that's because our grounding in games mastering, and in a way this is what we need to break away from. Our grounding in games mastering back in the day is running games for a few players, i.e. 2 players, sometimes even 1 player. And when you play, when you sometimes back in the day run a game for me, and I would run a game for you, and sometimes there was Eddie there. And I think running a game for 1 player as a games master makes you feel incredibly responsible for entertaining this person.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's no scope for discussion. You're just bouncing things back at them.
Yeah.
Whereas what we've learned in Star Trek, those Star Trek games, is you can actually relax a bit and let players discuss things.
Yeah.
And I've found that in the games of Numenera that I've run at conventions. What I've enjoyed is those moments where, as a games master, you can set up a situation, sit back, and let players spend 20 minutes discussing something and see that they're actually enjoying that discussion.
Yeah. But I think what Asaka So does in those situations is he asks questions that prepare you for your spotlight time.
Yes.
So you can feel. So I'm the ship's engineer, the Tellarite engineer, and you can see when a point in the game is reaching a point where it's going to need an intervention from the engineer. Yeah. And it slowly builds questions in to get you ready and prepared for that. Because when the focus is on you, there's quite a lot to do, isn't there, in Star Trek? So I picked that up from Asaka So, that question. I played Price of Freedom with Doc Carey. And what was good about that is, because of the nature of the game, there was a lot of stuff. So part of it, it's a war game, isn't it? So it's all about equipment and kit. And managing all that kind of stuff, I find daunting. In these old school games, it is daunting. And I do tend to say, oh, it's a small gun, a medium size.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same. I find all that bit tedious.
But the way that the game was packaged is that there were cards, so all the equipment was on cards. So when you were deploying an item, you had a card to refer to. And and you got a sense of where it is, and you could pick things up along the way. So part of it is obviously you're moving through occupied America.
Yes, yeah.
Finding stuff that you can use in your resistance movement, and it's good to pick up those cards. But I think the person I've learned the most from is having those couple of sessions with Gaz, and Gaz from the Smart Party. He don't do things that are particularly different from what we do in terms of technique. A sense of assertiveness about his approach.
Yeah.
That ups everybody's game.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
I do understand what you mean. Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I've enjoyed the two games of Warhammer that we played with him, but you definitely feel that get involved. There's a sense of somehow there's an air of get involved.
Yeah, it's not explicitly stated, but it's tacit there, isn't it? That you're at the table, you're going to participate in this, and you're going to take part in it, and you better pay attention because nobody's going to, if you get left behind, you're going to get left behind.
You've got competition there for that Megalomaniac award, I think.
But I think that's something I've taken away of taking a subtle command of the table.
And I think that's a good skill to have, isn't it? Particularly when you're running things at conventions, because we've done a lot of that this year, haven't we? And that's a different experience because you're often sitting down with strangers who you don't know, who may be a bit shy, and a range of ages as well, from young, 14, 15, 16-year-old playing, and then someone much older. So it's good to have that kind of command of things and be able to bring people in to a game and make them, And I think that's the thing with, as you say, with Gaz. It sounds a bit intimidating, but it's not intimidating. I think it's just about involving people and getting people to become involved.
And setting expectations as well.
Yeah.
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 Mind you, we say it's tacit and subtle, but he did call you a metagaming bastard.
He did, he called me a metagaming bastard. I suspect those people playing World of Darkness might call me a metagaming bastard as well, because I wasn't prepared to be in character all the time. So there you go. It's probably my fault.
So let's open the envelope and see what wins. Oh, and it's Hero Quest. Ian Cooper's game.
A deserved winner.
And it just so happens that he's going to appear in the next
Is
episode.
He?
Hey,
well done. That's very fortuitous, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, next up is the Sharon Osbourne Award for It Looks New, but it is in fact very old. Okay. So it's older than you think.
Yeah.
So what have you got on this?
My nominee for that is a deluxe Tunnels and Trolls.
Yeah,
which I've already referred to. We've had quite a bit of fun playing that this year, and it's a good book because really the rules inside, it's Tunnels and Trolls. There's nothing new about the rules really. I think there's one or two tweaks, but even the tweaks I think are just things from previous editions. So I don't think there's anything new in there. What's new, I suppose, is the inclusion of Troll World. So Ken Santandra's homebrew world, that his games are Tunnels and Trolls. So, and it's the world of all the solo adventures like Kazan and, all that kind of stuff, Arena of Kazan and all the other stuff. But what makes it breathes fresh air into or life into it, I think, is the inclusion of Troll World. Because when you read Troll World, the game system makes more sense or becomes more appealing. Because Troll World has this quirkiness to it and the sense of humour to it.
Yeah.
That when, we've discussed before, I always had that problem with Tunnels and Trolls, that the spell names are a bit daft. And there's a sort of gonzo sense of humour to it that when we were younger, we never quite appreciated. But when you add Troll World in there, you think, well, I see how this works now. Somehow it gives a sort of vitality to it, and it makes sense. The system and the world meld together, and you think, yeah, in this world, it is okay to have a spell called Take That, You Fiend. It's okay.
Yeah.
I think they might call it that in this world,
Yeah.
When you read about places like Kahora, which is a city of skeleton men, so it's like animated skeletons that've got their own little city. That kind of thing's it's a bit wacky, a bit funny, but it does work.
Yes.
And I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed coming back to that.
And I've enjoyed playing. We've been playing it with Eddie at the table, haven't we? And Eddie has been the Wolfman, who is a gladiator, and I've been his sidekick, Leprechaun, Larceny.
Larceny the Leprechaun, yeah.
Yeah. And our shtick at the Arena of Kazan was that he was the Wolfman, and I was dressed as a cat in a leather.
The leprechaun.
The leprechaun.
The leprechaun.
Wolfman and
the
leprechaun.
leprechaun.
Any other game we wouldn't have done that.
That's it. Yeah. Any other game you wouldn't have thought like that, but TNT in Troll World, because I think that was the thing when we were younger. We would play Tunnels and Trolls, and we would try and fit Tunnels and Trolls into a Tolkien-esque or a more Cockian kind of fantasy world, swords and sorcery world, and it never quite felt quite right. But when you play it in Troll World, you think, oh yeah, I get it now. I get it now, Ken. It's okay. It makes perfect sense. Or do you think that's kind of why we got into these games?
Getting out a dingling every so often.
Getting out a dingling spell, yeah.
Older than you think. I mean, this is the year of the revivals, isn't it? Of these old, they've been put out there for a while. They've been well trailed, but RuneQuest Glorantha has come out this year, and of course Warhammer 4th Edition has come out this year. And I played quite a bit of RuneQuest Glorantha now, but it's been the quick start, and I played the quick start a lot of times this year.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, do you know it? Ask me the question.
Do you know it?
I don't know it. The answer to that question,
you don't.
Thanks for asking it. It's a good
okay
question.
Anytime.
I don't really know it, because I don't think, picking up what we were saying earlier, I don't think I'm playing a quick start really gives you a chance to get into it.
Yeah.
And I tentatively nominate RuneQuest Glorantha because I've been waiting for it for so long. But I don't know whether it's such a strong thing, because it doesn't feel a strong part of my gaming life yet. I think I need to get into it. I think, I've got these plans to run some more demo games, but also to do a campaign in Sun County next year.
And I think you're right. The thing with RuneQuest Glorantha is it demands, really, that you play it and play quite a bit of it to get under the skin of it.
And I feel the same way about Warhammer. So Warhammer, we've had a couple of sessions, but those sessions have not been able to contain the setting. So we've had to continue it. It was intended to be a one-shot, but we got into the characters so much and got into the situation so much, and some of the NPCs and the rivalries that we've got with them, that it feels like we have to stay in it.
Well, I do think Warhammer, 4th edition Warhammer, I've really, really enjoyed. And despite what I said in the last podcast about too much stuff, I have bought the rules. But I suppose for us personally, it doesn't qualify for this award because we didn't really play it back in the day. We didn't play it at all back in the day, did we? So it just feels new.
Yeah.
Warhammer 4th, it just feels like a new game.
So the winner of the Sharon Osbourne Award is Deluxe TNT.
Another deserved winner.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is the critical hit on the encounter table. So you talked about Expo.
Yes, talked about Expo. You have, yeah.
So you went to Elba. What did you do at Elba? What did you play?
I played some Fate core, and the games master was good because he knew the rules well. And some of the more bemusing elements of Fate, like things like boosts, you can get boosts in Fate when you make certain rolls. And I'd never quite grasped those until playing at Owlbear. now I think, oh yeah, I got it. It fell into place. Is that our watchword, our phrase, isn't it? That, you know, you can't really judge a game until you've played it. And playing Fate Core, certain bits of it that bemused me, reading the rules, fell into place, and I thought that's good. It was good. It was a good convention. Almost as good as GROGGIE.
GROGGIE, of course. GROGGIE in November, and it was bigger than we've done before.
Yeah.
Do you know this? I know that I think I have said this before, but this is the first time I've been out and about that I realised that people listen to this.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. So when I went last year to Expo, I sat as a lonely figure in the bar, reeling at the price of the pints.
Well, you were still reeling at them this year. That's not changed.
And I would go over and make conversation. So, oh yeah, they look at my t-shirt. Oh, GROGGIE Files. What's that? Yeah. And I'd say, oh, it's a podcast. I don't really do podcasts. That's what they'd say.
Did they sound like that?
Yeah. I don't really do podcasts.
They drift off.
Yeah, drift off.
Leaving you lonely with your overpriced pint.
Yeah.
It's a sad figure you must have cut.
But this time, I couldn't even go for a pee. So everybody wanted to... And
we couldn't... Well, we were nearly late for games because people kept stopping us. We went to the trade hall, people kept stopping.
Yeah, and it was great, wasn't it, to think, and people... And it's the first time I felt like the group of people listening is like a sense of community about it.
Yeah.
No more so, I think, than virtual GROGGIE. So this is where we did the online... First time we'd done it online. And we did it online using Roll20 weekend in April. And the best thing about that was that it got people playing online who'd never played before.
Yes, yeah.
People who were just trying out, can I do this on my phone? Can I connect? I don't have good Wi-Fi. I'm going to try it out on the cellular. People from all over the world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they were all over the world. It was an international event.
It was great. But as I said, the most rewarding thing about it is that sense that following that, people went on to set up their own online groups.
Yeah, that's a good thing, isn't it? That
it is a good thing. So the winner this year of the critical hit on the encounter table, virtual GROGGIE.
Another deserved winner.
Another deserved. We'll pass it on.
I don't disagree. With a megalomaniac, it's hard to disagree, isn't it?
We're going to take a break now. Listen to some more actual play of Warhammer. I sound like a continuity.
You do, don't you? BBC, you're a dicky one.
Would there be a chance that that Elspeth would come running back into us? As enough time elapsed that we would be trailing her, we'd meet in the streets, like rounding a corner or something.
Going to have a look, Harold. You see Elspeth's coming like hell for leather. That's the one. So down that street opposite you, coming hell for leather, covered in lampblack and stuff, but quite easy to hear, if not see. He's Elspeth at full tilt coming towards you.
Right, that's the prearranged signal for she's being trailed by 10 stevedores with a grudge.
The imbecilic nobles made herself a target. She must take cover.
Curse you, Van Horgan. You're always getting us into this trouble. And I'll shake my sword.
So you've made your excuses to get a bit of air, and the lads have seemed happy to let you go outside just for the minute. But you are like consciously aware that now behind you as well, there's probably best part of half a dozen stevedores at the pub as well.
Right. Arms. Places, everyone. Let's do the show right here.
So you're going to set up an ambush? Is that what we're saying?
In seconds, I'll have worked out the optimal placings for its tactic, and I'll push something over to make it even. That looks innocuous right now, but will be really important in about 3 rounds' time.
Have you got a special power using, or is this just a lovely description?
This is all ambition, really, mate. Of course, I've got nothing to back it up.
I can't remember what talents you got. I didn't know they were a cool one.
I've got Alley Cat, so whenever I'm using Stealth Urban, I can reverse the dice so any failed test if it would succeed.
So, see, as you're doing the setup and directing people, I'll let you make your stealth roll then to see if you're managed to get yourselves in position for a surprise round.
That's the idea. Yeah. I've still got to roll the dice though, so this could all go. Still got to back it up. I've got a score of 42, 81. So I'll take an 18, please.
Cool, no problem. So you set up, like try and set it up like a little bit of a funnel as well to get people down. So only a few people come down at a time and all that kind of stuff. Get your nooks and crannies, bits of cover, and all settle yourselves in. And then not long after, you've set up a bunch of beefy guys have started filtering the way through the alleyway towards you. So are you going to like all leap out on the first one, or catch them unawares in the middle, or what's the plan?
How many are there of these guys?
There's 10.
How expendable do you think the noble is? We could hand her over.
That's true.
It could be a simple
Throw my sword.
It could be a bait and trap situation.
Do we need to fight these guys, or do we just need to avoid them? There's certainly something odd about the fact that Volker's not been seen ever since things started going well for him.
Yeah.
Which suggests perhaps he's not behind it.
But there's also a potential for us to ally with these people because they want to get hold of him, don't they? Much like we do.
But I think we're squaring up to him in an alley against 10 stevedores. There's only 4 of us. And despite our puissant skill, I suspect we would get absolutely battered, thrown in the river.
Maybe we avoid them and then try and contact this Kruger character.
Craig was the head of the Thieves Guild that has gone missing.
Well, the guy who sent these characters is...
That's Vilrin Stark.
Wilrin. Maybe we contact Vilrin.
Yeah, that's not a bad plan.
Tomorrow.
All right.
Well, notably, as you see them all piling up, Elspeth, you notice that Vilrin's not amongst them, and it does look like most of the guys that were in the warehouse when you were there last.
So go to the warehouse and tackle Vilrin.
Yeah, exactly. That's a better plan, isn't it? We can break into the warehouse while they're all out looking for us.
So to begin with, what I'll do is I'll flash Madeline the Noble in front of them and then do a double back so that she's hidden. And then I will seemingly run off with her under my cloak so they can chase me.
That's, it sounds good. I want to know if you've got dice to back that up, though. That's the thing.
That's the thing.
So I think it's stealth again, because you're trying to deceive them that you've got you've got this other person in your cloak. And
I think it's more savvy. I'm using my savvy nature. But I am naturally savvy.
Yeah, well, you get plus 20 because they're surprised because they weren't expecting it. You get plus 20 to your skill for this.
4. That's how it's done.
Are you sure you're only D100? Yeah. So picking up a small barrel in the shape of Magdalena's head, or not dissimilar. You stick that under your cloak and start legging it around the corner. And these brutish but not necessarily very intelligent stevedores immediately yell out, "There she is, get her!" And all come pounding down the street, including the big fat one at the end who's heaving and wheezing, causing big long breath to come out in the mist. "I'm coming!" shouts Lazy John at the back. But this 10 guys knocking barrels over and tripping over each other come stumbling after you. So you think you'll be able to keep ahead of them, but don't trip up, otherwise it'll be a bad night for you. That's all I can say. So you start rushing off. The rest of you head in the opposite direction, following the chalk marks and moved rain barrels and little pebble cairns that have been left for you, and find yourself before this warehouse. And while most of them are dark, this one's got a little bit of lamplight leaking out from the gaps in the planks, which leads you to believe you're at the right place.
That and the fallen rain barrel directly outside. Mark of Elspeth. It's all about the barrels.
Yeah.
You're just barreling.
Very good.
You burst in, the three of you, and you see Vilrin Stark. He's sat by a fire in like an old oil barrel type thing, or a metal brazier, probably more likely. Bits of fish and a mesh on top, happily roasting and popping away with blackened skin. He's got a couple of his stevedores with him. He's not left himself completely undefended, as you'd expect. But they do look up with mild surprise that it's you three that barrel through the door rather than his men come back with a prize. And he shoves his big, greasy, matted hat back from his hair to have a good look at you.
I'll try and get my sword out and try and get it pointed at him, or as close as I can to him, with his pot belly.
So the scene, imagine, is the fire's kind of in between you at the minute.
Yeah.
They've knocked the tea chest over and got to the feet and put hands on weapons as you flashed out a blade across the flames, licking it towards his belly. And he's looking at you steely-eyed and appraisingly. "Oh, I see. So Von Hogan sent one of his assassins at last. I wondered when he finished the job."
Far from it. I think me and you need a conversation about shared aims.
Welcome back. I've got Eddie's cracker here.
Eddie's cracker. Okay.
Okay, I got a joke, all right.
Go on.
What's the most useless holiday?
I don't know. What is the most useless holiday?
D12 days of Christmas. D12 days of Christmas.
D12. D12.
D12 days
God.
of Christmas. That's rubbish. That,
Oh.
Right, okay. Moving on. So the next thing on the Spurious envelope, New Kid on the Top. The tabletop. It's a new game that I've been playing. I've got. So we're introducing to our repertoire.
Well, for me, and I've not played it yet, but it's
Doesn't count.
Doesn't count. Doesn't count. I've not played it.
Play is the thing.
It is like we were going to play it. I'm going to make you play it. I've acquired Acton Cthulhu.
Acton Cthulhu.
Acton Cthulhu because for a number of reasons. One is I've really enjoyed our games of Pulp Cthulhu.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed Pulp Cthulhu a lot over the last 12 months. Because for me, Pulp Cthulhu fixes a lot of the problems with Cthulhu. So I like the fact you have a bit more agency. You're not completely, although there's a lot of jeopardy, you're not completely doomed. And somehow Cthulhu in a pulpy setting seems to work for me. It doesn't matter if you bump into a Mygor, down the sewers in a pulp setting. But somehow in normal Cthulhu, it always seemed a bit daft. But maybe that's just me. I've enjoyed that. But also, I've always wanted to play Fate. I like Fate. I like the system. I've always wanted to explore it a bit more. But one of the problems I've got with Fate is that some of the settings that they do are a bit... They're not really my cup of tea. They're all a bit off beam and quirky, aren't they? So you look at the Fate worlds and it's things like playing... There's one I saw, playing detectives in ancient Rome.
That sounds good.
Well, it sounds good as a one-shot, but you get a bit... I think you get a bit fed up of it. It's a bit limited, isn't it?
I've got a setting, Kaiju Incorporated. So you clean up squad after a monster's taken over a city. So you can have a good trade in Godzilla handbags. Seriously, you can.
Well, that's not too bad. But generally speaking, the Fate settings have never really inspired me. But the game system I do like a lot. And I didn't know until very recently that there's an act. Because I've also thought Acton Cthulhu's always sounded good. The idea of Nazis and Cthulhu and the Second World War it's a great setting for Cthulhu. And I didn't realise until very recently there was a Fate version of that. So I've acquired the Fate version of Acton Cthulhu, and I like it a lot. And hopefully next year I'll be running a bit of that.
Oh, that's good.
So it manages to fulfil a lot of things. It's pulpy, so it's a bit like Pulp Cthulhu. So it's a pulpy kind of setting, but it also allows me to use Fate and play around with the system that has intrigued me for a while, but I've never really had the chance to find a fit for it, if that makes sense. I've never found anywhere that I can sort of fit it into, but it's a really good supplement. It's a good supplement, lots of detail in it. And I think Fate works, the Cthulhu mythos works well with Fate as well. You'll find out when we play it, but I think the monsters and the magic work really well in Fate. It's more dramatic than in basic role-playing. It's more about things working and having an effect on you and this, that and the other. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Well, similarly, I've been looking at a generic system. And this is probably the closest thing that I've come to hacking a game since we've got back into playing. Yeah. And it's partly inspired by our good friend at Daily Dwarf.
Yeah.
So I've been looking at Savage Worlds, and in particular Savage Worlds for Strontium Dog. So using the Mongoose supplement that they produce for Traveller and trying to adapt it for Savage Worlds. Earlier in the year I did a lot of Judge Dredd, so playing the scenario that Daily Dwarf did for the GROGGIE last time, and he wrote another scenario, American Werebear in Brexit. Very good, but using Savage rules, because as we discovered in our podcast about Judge Dredd, the rules are a bit cranky, aren't they? They don't really work. But Savage is good because it does have that pulpy feel that you're talking about with Fate, and it does allow you to play around with things. So what I've been doing is rolling on the mutations table and adapting them into edges and hindrances for the Strontium dogs. So yeah, my suggestion is Savage Worlds, Fast and Furious. Hopefully come back and
Savage Worlds. Again, that's another game we've done so much this year. It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult to sort of remember everything that we've done. It's been such a packed year of gaming this year because we've played Savage. It's the first time we've played Savage Worlds this year, as well, isn't it? And it's been a good. It's good, game.
Isn't it? It's good. It's good because it's like Fast and Furious.
It is, yeah. It's a good system. Yeah.
Okay, and the winner of that is Savage Worlds because we have played it.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. I'll give you that.
What we've been doing, people might not realise, a thematic in our programming, don't we? Every year we try and choose a theme to explore.
Yes. Yeah.
And this year we've been looking at those Games Workshop games from a particular era.
Yes.
So 87, 88. So things that were published around that time. What I found is that playing those games has weirdly surfaced up memories of why we stopped playing.
Yeah.
So 30 years ago, trapped in those games were some of the things. So it's things in Golden Heroes, things in Judge Dredd, things that are still latent in those things have been coming up. You know what I mean? And we had a moment, didn't we, when Eddie turned round to us and said,
yes,
we're doing too much. We're doing too many different games.
Yeah.
Get back to what we know.
Yeah. He definitely wanted to get back to familiar games that, and I think familiar games and a familiar style of play.
Yes.
Because that's, as I said, that's been a theme this year, different styles of play. So the World of Darkness style of play, which it really jarred with me. It really made me feel awkward, a bit uncomfortable, Then Ian Cooper's style of play with Hero Quest was different as well.
Yeah.
Like a storytelling style of play, wasn't it? So that's been a theme this year, I suppose. And as you say, Eddie said to us, didn't he, that he wanted to... he described it as losing his RPG mojo, didn't he?
Yeah.
But when we love bombed him by bringing beer and crisps to his house, he said it wasn't quite that. It was more that he wanted to get back to the basics of role-playing, like the familiar games from the past and familiar styles of play.
Yeah.
And that's what triggered the Tunnels and Trolls session, wasn't it? Where I said, right, well, tell you what, let's play Tunnels and Trolls and we'll do something fairly straightforward. And we enjoyed that a lot. And what you realise is, there is room for that in your gaming life, I think, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's good to play high concept games, and it's good to play different styles of gaming. And like you said with Blades in the Dark, it's great to play a game where you think, wow, 12 hours and not one combat, and yet it's been exciting. But there's room for all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't lose sight of what brought you to the hobby.
Exactly.
And I think that's the lesson of this year. Don't lose sight of what's brought you to the hobby.
Yeah. And I think we've referred to it as the Eddie Corrective.
The Eddie Corrective, yeah.
Because just remind us to keep our feet on the ground, not get overexcited about new stuff.
Yeah.
And just remember to enjoy it.
Remember to enjoy it, and remember that the thing that brought you to role-playing was a desire to kind of play action and adventure games in a fantastical setting.
Yeah.
And whilst in a way you're always doing that, sometimes you can lose sight of it. You can lose sight of it and think, I don't know, this game's turn, it's like work, something.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the Eddie Corrective. So what's your resolutions for the new year? What have you got planned? So you mentioned Acton Cthulhu.
Yeah, I want to run some Acton Cthulhu, and we're also I'm planning on running Dragon Heist for our Wednesday night group.
Oh, brilliant!
Buying the Roll20 package. Which I'm looking forward to, because you're right, I did get a bit of GMitis after we'd finished Storm Kings. Running a campaign for 18 months every other Wednesday, you get into that rhythm of it, and I miss it in a way. I miss it.
Yeah.
And it's nice when you're running a long campaign to have a ready-built package on Roll20, because the ups and downs of life sometimes get in the way of preparing something when it's ongoing every other week.
Yeah.
And it's good to have something there that you can fall back on, I suppose. You know it's there.
Yeah.
That was a good thing about Storm Kings. There was always something there to run. So some weeks I could prep quite a lot and look at the plot and turn it in the direction I wanted to. And other times I didn't have, because of work or something else, I didn't have time to do that. But I knew it was always there.
Yeah.
It was always there, ready.
Going back to the Eddie Corrective and what excites people, we have been playing other games in that Wednesday night group.
Yeah.
You suggested going back to D&D and everybody got excited.
Everyone got excited again. It's all snatched my hand off. And you think, oh, there you go. It says something about it, doesn't it?
So one of my resolutions for the new year is to play more and to get rid of some of my bad habits as a player and get better at playing. I'm so focused on when I'm going to be next games mastering and just looking, learning from other games masters that sometimes I forget to play.
Yes, yeah.
That's
forget to kind of involve yourself in playing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've developed, by playing a lot online, I've developed some bad habits. Multitasking whilst I'm playing. Too many distractions whilst you're playing.
Yes, yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's true. If you do a lot of games mastering, you get into a mentality that when I'm games mastering, I need to be prepared, I need to entertain these people, I need to cover all bases. But when I'm playing, that seems like the easier option.
Yes.
And therefore, I can be more relaxed. But the danger is, and that's what we've learned from playing with Gaz, isn't it? That expectation that you'll get involved.
Yeah.
You don't multitask when you're playing those.
No.
They call you a multitasking bastard. Which is even worse than a metagaming bastard.
Well, I don't know.
As a point of order, he said that to me, but I think all I said was, who's got the best persuasion skill? That was all I said. I wasn't metagaming. Well, I was, but you know what I mean. It was a lapse.
Right, so that's it for another year. We've got another exciting year ahead of us. So thanks a lot, Blythe.
All right. I'll see you next year.
Thanks to all the contributors who've made the Grog Pod special this year. I've really enjoyed putting it together each month. Make sure you subscribe to What Would the Smart Party Do to find out what happens next in the Woof-Up scenario. As soon as it's edited together, it will be released on the feed. At this time of the year, I usually like to give some recommendations of other podcasts that I've been listening to. These are on top of my usual fare of the Improvised Radio Theatre with Dice, Good Friends of Jackson Elias, Save for Half, the Release Podcast, and the Cthulhu Breakfast Club. But there are some new ones. Now, I'm not that keen on listening to actual plays myself, but I do have some exceptions. I'm currently enjoying Scott Dorwood from the Good Friends of Jackson Elias acting as the keeper for How We Roll podcast in their run through of the Two-Headed Serpent. I also really enjoy a really good, fun actual play, The Chimpions, using the Hero System RPG. It's very grounded and entertaining actual play podcast that also enjoys hobnobs. A new one to check out that's been released this year is the Vintage RPG podcast, a short show which includes board games, but don't let that put you off, as well as RPGs from the past. Next in the Grog Pod, over 2019, we'll be turning our attention to some of the media that inspired our gaming. TV programmes such as Robin of Sherwood, and films such as Krull, and novels such as Leoness by Jack Vance. Appendix N is a podcast that looks in detail at the recommendations of novels by Gary Gygax in the D&D rules. It's great stuff. This month I'll be working hard to get the zine completed, which will be released at the end of January and early February to patrons. Thanks to all the generous tips that we've received this year, it's really helped us to cover the cost and inspire new projects. We really appreciate it. Thanks to those who joined in November and December of 2018. I'll be giving some individual shouts out next time, and rolling on a Gloranthan table of plunder. In the next episode, we're talking Hero Quest with Chaosium's Ian Cooper, recorded live-ish from GROGGIE 2018. Another month passes, and another passing of a legend, proving that many great things come from Bolton. Adios, Pete. Adios, amigos.